What's up, booktube? Welcome back. My name is Laura if you're new here, and today I'm talking about some books that have to do with spooky, sentient, magical forests. So I am visiting with my parents right now, and they live in these beautiful woods, so I figured while I'm here taking my dogs for a walk, I would do a little video recommending some books that deal with sentient forests or forest magic, that kind of thing. So that's what we're doing. So don't mind the shaky camera, but I'm walking the dog. If you can see her somewhere. Where are you? I think that's her right there. So yeah, just taking the dog for a walk and figured why not make a little video right now recommending some good books. I love like any kind of forest magic and like spooky forest, all that kind of thing. It is so my jam, and especially the woods here, like they're so beautiful. I'll put in some shots of the forest around me as well too. It is so pretty. But I am going to try and find a little spot to rest my phone, so maybe I'm not so shaky, but for the time being, until I find one, just have to deal with the walking. But anyway, so I have 7 books to recommend for today. 4 of them I have read and 3 of them are on my TBR. So I'll start with the ones that I have read, starting with the Greenhollow Duology by Emily Tesh. This one was such a fun duology. They're 2 novellas, and these ones are about the Green Man myth. So in this one, it follows a man who lives in the woods. He's lived there for a very, very long time, and he meets a man who is studying the myth of the Green Man. He's been obsessed with it for so long, and the 2 of them start to work together to kind of put together some of the mysteries of it, because the main character has been living there for so long that he probably knows a lot about the Green Man myth, and then turns out that he is actually the Green Man, and he's this like immortal forest god, and the 2 of them end up falling in love. It was such a good duology. It had all of the good nature magic in it. It was so beautiful. There's like dryads and all these cool creatures in it. It was so beautiful and so atmospheric. I loved it. In terms of the like imagery and like all the forest stuff, book 1 was definitely better than book 2 was, but book 2 was better for plot, I found. But either way, both were fantastic, and I would definitely recommend them. Alright, so I found a spot to put my phone. We're a little precariously balanced on a couple of sticks on a tree here, but it's working, so hopefully we won't fall down. But anyways, the next book to recommend is Among the Beasts and Briars by Ashley Poston. This is a fairy tale type of fantasy, which I just loved. It was such a good time. So in this book, our main character is the daughter of the royal gardener. So she has spent her whole life just surrounded by all this beautiful like nature and everything, and she actually has some magic herself, which nobody can know about because they live in the middle of this forest that is very, very spooky and full of like terrifying creatures that will kill you if you go into the woods too far. But their village is kept safe because of the magic of the royals. But I believe what happens is the old king dies, and so the main character's friend, who's the princess, is about to be crowned, but in that in-between time between when he dies and the coronation, the monsters of the woods attack, and everybody aside from the main character is put under the spell of the forest monsters. And so our main character, along with her fox friend, they have to travel through the woods and try and find some help before everybody dies. This was such a good book. It was so much fun, super fast read as well. I just adored this book. It was so atmospheric and lovely and just such a good time. The writing style was so pretty and it was super fast paced and just overall a fantastic time. So I would definitely recommend it, especially if you like the like more body horror sides of like sentient forest kind of thing. It's not a scary book by any means, but the imagery in there is kind of freaky a little bit, so it was fantastic. Hi, Rosie. Hello. Next up is The Devouring Gray by Lynn Herman. This one is not really like a sentient forest kind of thing, but it's more so a monster in the woods. But this one takes place in a town where there are 4 founding families, and these families each have a different kind of magic, and they have to work together to keep the Gray from destroying everything. And the Gray is this like really terrifying like mist monster that's in the woods, and it's so creepy, and like it was so much fun. The first book wasn't my favorite thing ever. Like I definitely was like one of the few who didn't really enjoy it, but so many people love this duology that I had to recommend it. And book 2 was actually a lot better for me. So like in terms of plot, they're not my favorite, but the atmosphere is so good. Like I read these books probably like at least 2 years ago now, and I can still picture the imagery in these books and like how beautiful they are and just how creepy and atmospheric and all these things. It was wonderful. So definitely recommend those ones as well. Next up is Sawkill Girls by Legrand. Honestly, this one is way better if you go into it not knowing much about it, so I'm not going to get too into the synopsis here. But just in short, it takes place on this island town called Sawkill Rock. And on this island, there is this rumor that there's this monster living in the woods, and girls have been disappearing from this town for decades. So I'm not going to go super into detail there because, again, like this book, it was such a wild ride from start to finish. It really is better if you don't really know the plot going into it. It was very unexpected. It was such a phenomenal book. It was so creepy and like genuinely terrifying. I think this one I was actually reading while I was home alone one day. I had to put it down and like wait for somebody else to come home before I could keep reading it because I was so terrified. This one I think would make a fantastic horror movie. I can like picture the music that would play in the background of it and like all the scenery of it. It was just so beautiful, and like the characters were phenomenal as well. This book is largely about the monster of the woods, but it's also a lot about the relationships between all the characters. They're very complicated, and kind of how everybody's stories intertwine together in ways that you wouldn't really expect. Just so well done and so incredibly creepy. Moving on to the books that I have not read. The first one is Into the Heartless Wood by Joanna something Meyer. I can't think of the name, but the picture is here, so you got it. First of all, this cover is phenomenal. I love it. It's so good. This one, it has to do with forest sirens, which sounds so cool. So in this story, there is a witch who has been feeding the heartless tree with the souls of men, and so she uses her forest sirens to lure men into the woods so that she can kill them and feed them to this tree, except one of her sirens has fallen in love with a human. So it's kind of like a Little Mermaid retelling, except it's a forest version of it, which sounds so cool. And like I'd never heard of forest sirens before, but I love all of the imagery in here. It sounds like it's going to be beautifully atmospheric. If this cover has any indication of like what the inside is going to be, I think I'm going to love this one. Next up is Briar Girls by Rebecca Kim Wells, I think it was. This one is about a young girl who was cursed before she was born, and now her touch can kill. So she's lived most of her life in isolation with her father, but after a mistake, they're forced to go and live in this little village near this super creepy forest called the Silence, in which people have been lured into the forest never to be seen again. So there's definitely some kind of creepy forest monster happening in there, or magic of some kind, sentient forest, you get the gist. But then one day a girl ends up stumbling out of the forest for the first time, and things kind of go from there. I have no clue where this book is going to go, but I can't wait to find out. I want to read this book so badly. It sounds incredible. I just love like spooky sentient forests. They're so good, clearly, since I'm making this video, but like this one especially is like the epitome of like what I'm talking about. This sounds so perfectly creepy and exactly like what I want to read right now. Like standing in these woods right now with like all these animal sounds around me and my dog behind me like snapping twigs sounds like a monster. Like this book is exactly what I want to read right now. It sounds like absolute perfection, so I'm hoping to be able to get to it very, very soon. This is definitely a like fall time read for me. I need to read this season, so like somebody hold me to it, please. And then the last book for today is A Dark and Starless Forest by Sarah Hollowell. This one is once again the perfect book for what I'm talking about here for this video. In this one, our main character and her 8 siblings live in this like really creepy isolated house right by a lake, and between them and the rest of the world is this super creepy, dark, menacing forest. And their father figure tells them that they can pretty much never leave, and it's for their own good, he says, but he won't tell them why. But then the main character's siblings start to disappear one by one, and she has no choice but to venture out into the woods and try and figure out what's going on before she loses her entire family. No clue what's gonna happen here. I don't know if there's like a monster in the woods or like what's going on. Maybe they're the monsters, who knows. There are so many ways that this book could go, and I can't wait to find out. This one has really good ratings on Goodreads, so I am like very hopeful for. I think it's going to be phenomenal, and I cannot wait to get to it. It sounds like it's going to be such a good time. Alright, so those are the 7 books that I have to talk about today that have to do with some kind of sentient magical forest. If you have more recommendations, please feel free to leave them down below in the comments. I would love to read some more of them or just talk about some that I've already read. But in the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye! I just went and touched some stinging nettle by accident, and now my hand is on fire. Oh my god. Jesus Christ.